And good morning and welcome to the AI Moment, Compliance, Creativity, and Opportunity for Independent Producers. And this is brought to you by the Independent Film and Television Alliance and presented by Wrapbook. And my name is Robin Birds. I'm the Vice President of Marketing and Membership for the Independent Film and Television Alliance and for the American Film Market, which this year will be taking place again in Los Angeles, November 10 through 15 at the Fairmont Century Plaza. And today's webinar will offer a clear, practical breakdown of how AI can be used responsibly and legally in today's film and television workflows. And the conversation will explore which AI tools are currently permissible across development, production, and post, where legal, union, and ethical boundaries exist, and how independent producers can innovate without increasing risk. You'll hear perspectives from the legal, creative, and operational experts on both the opportunities and the limitations of AI in the industry. I'd like to thank our partner, Wrapbook, the AI for production finance, and all-in-one solution that brings payroll together, spend, and accounting in a single elegant system. And before we get going, I'd like to show a very short video from Wrapbook. And before I introduce the moderator, we'll be taking questions from the audience. Click on the Q&A icon at the bottom of your screen. Now it's my pleasure to introduce our moderator, Todd Terrazas, who is the founder and president of AI LA, one of the world's largest AI communities, and co-founder and CEO of FBRC.ai, a venture studio building the next generation studio stack for AI native storytelling. He's also the co-creator of AI on the Lot, a flagship conference in LA at the intersection of AI, media, and entertainment, bringing together filmmakers, technologists, and studio leaders from around the world. With a background in filmmaking and deep experience bridging Hollywood startups and global tech ecosystem, Todd focuses on turning emerging technology into a real creative workflows, new IP, and cultural impact. It's our great pleasure to introduce Todd to introduce the panelists.
Thank you so much for that warm opening, Robin. Yeah, we got a great lineup of experts here, and so I thought we'll have each one give a brief intro and answer this one question within this intro. How are you and your clients using AI in your work today, and what's the most misunderstood about using it in film and television? And let's start with Jonathan.
Hi, good morning. Thank you very much for having me. I'm Jonathan Younger. I'm the president of Millennium Media, and I'm also the CEO and founder of Arcana Labs Corp. And what we are is an all-in-one ecosystem of all the Gen AI tools in one place, and geared more towards production companies, enterprise, and we design the platform to really get put into production workflows. Todd, can you tell me the question again? I'm sorry.
No worries. How are your clients using AI in their work today? And I guess what's the most misunderstood about using AI in their work?
Oh, sure. From the production companies that are using us right now, they're using them to basically create certain kinds of assets after they do development, taking storyboards and animating them for just a more comprehensive previs and things like that. Our other enterprise clients like CPG brands and companies like that are actually doing full-blown commercials for broadcast with AI, but with an emphasis. And I think one of the misunderstandings is you don't just press a button and just make something for you with AI. You need talent, you need skill. And Arcana is all about artist-driven AI and not AI-driven art.
Wonderful. Next up, how about Ali?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Ali, co-founder and CEO of Wrapbook. We've really built a AI platform for production finance. And I think what we see in the industry today is productions are being asked to do more with less, Budget is tighter than ever, and AI enables people to up-level their jobs. So it moves an accountant from data entry of POs and invoices to leveraging AI to automatically reconcile that. So an accountant can help a producer understand cash flow, how they're tracking to be on budget, what decisions they might make differently on set to actually hit budget, land on time. And I think this is one of the things that the industry is reconciling with, which is, hey, AI is doing tasks that humans used to do. What does that mean for us? And at Wrapbook, both for our internal employees and for our customers, we largely view AI as a tool where it elevates humans to do what they do best. And it's like leveraging a calculator. We no longer do arithmetic, we leverage calculator. Now we leverage AI to reconcile invoices. So it's really kind of just the beginning, and excited to be on the webinar and excited to chat about all of this.
Wonderful. And Daniel, you want to go next?
Brilliant. Yeah, morning everyone. Thanks for having me. So I'm Daniel. I'm a co-founder and CEO of Moonmax, which is an AI native production company. I'm also head of AI at Raindance Film Festival, and yeah, very happy to be here. With Moonmax, what we do is we get commissioned by studios, brands, etc., to deliver AI content. But we also have a slate of original films and series that we're developing based on New York Times bestselling books and other IP. And in answer to your question, Todd, I think a common misconception with AI is that it's sort of a one-man job. So Jonathan mentioned sort of the one click, one prompt misconception. I think, yeah, the misconception is that it's just one person can just get in front of a computer and they can create a feature film. Whereas really, I think every high quality piece of AI content out there has an army of traditional creatives behind it. And it's impossible for one person to be a master of everything. I think it requires traditional editor, sound designers, director, producers, and of course the AI creative technologists to execute. But yeah, that would be my answer to that.
Wonderful. And Sky, you're next.
I'm a Sky Moore partner at Greenberg Glusker. I am the author of a book called The Biz. Hopefully it shows up, and which is a pretty popular book in its sixth edition. I have a monthly column in Forbes. I have a YouTube channel under Sky Moore Attorney that is basically the course I taught at UCLA Law School and the business school. And my highest honor is being named Lifetime Legal Legend by the Hollywood Reporter, which I will take to my grave. For my clients, they're all over the board. We have AI using it for podcasts, audiobooks, micro dramas, films, and even an online interactive storytelling app that one client is developing. And on the most misunderstood, I'll second the motion of the other gentleman. That's exactly what the most misunderstood part is, the push a button theory.
Wonderful. Actually, Sky, I just realized that I had your book in one of my classes at USC. I think the third edition was the green one.
But it's been around a long time. It's been around. It's used as textbooks by a number of colleges, so I'm proud of it.
Very cool. Well, let's get things kicked off. I felt like, we're talking about responsible AI, but I felt like we should define, okay, what does it mean to really use AI responsibly in the film and television workflows today? And so I thought, like, Jonathan, how about you kick off kind of like talking through what does responsibility mean to you? And maybe what are like some practical guardrails that we should be thinking about?
Well, I'm one of the only Arcana is one of the few platforms that's actually approved by a major streamer for its workflow. So one of the things with regards to security and data sharing and things like that, we take that very seriously. In my career, I've always been a big proponent of intellectual property and copyright. I was an expert witness in the DMCA hearings, and I've been working with IFTA and Creative Future to always go on the road to DC. So when we're building an AI platform, it wasn't something that I was so into in the beginning, but I saw it needed to happen because being an independent producer, we got into a big problem in our business where the pre-sale doesn't really take care of everything anymore. You need an equity partner, and it's only getting worse. So we had to lower costs and raise production value. And to get productions to want to use us, they wanted to see security. So I think watermarking is really important on assets, where they come from, when they were made, what models were used to make them. We put all of our enterprise clients or productions, they use into a special into basically a sandbox where when you're using the models, your data is not sharing. You can't, it's just there, staying there for you on the enterprise side of our, and also with likenesses and things like that. We go through a pretty rigorous thing that prove that whatever company enterprise is using it, that they have the likenesses. Like most recently, we did a movie last year called Echo Hunter. That was actually a fully Gen AI movie that got a SAG contract. And so we made sure once we had the likenesses of Taylor John Smith and Breckin Meyer, we held on to them and we gave them an option. Do you want to keep it or do you want it to be destroyed? And we proved to them that it was destroyed. 3 out of the 4 actors in the movie actually wanted to destroy him, and one of them kept it, funny enough. So that's what we could do, and I'm sure that we'll find more stuff, but that seems to be keeping productions and studios comfortable at the moment.
Anyone else want to chime in? Maybe Daniel?
Sure. So just to clarify, was the question how are studios using it now, or how can they use it comfortably without concerns, right?
Yeah, for sure. Like we talk about responsible use, so it's about this kind of having a perspective on how is AI being used responsibly in your line of work.
Yeah. So I mean, I think there's a few key considerations that creatives have to have in mind when they enter it. So one is chain of ownership. So I think it's really important for any studios using AI tools to keep prompt logs, basically, so that they can track everything they've been inputting into the AI tools, and they can prove, if challenged, that none of those inputs are a copyright infringement. They can show that they haven't referenced other IP in the prompting, and that it's come from a place of sort of original creativity. So that's one major consideration. I think another one is carefully selecting the tools that are used as well, trying to lean into tools that are more kind of heavily regulated, and essentially kind of working with legal teams to determine which ones would be most responsible to go about using. So I would say that it's the prompt log transparency / chain of ownership that's really important, and then also tool selection.
Sky, with your clients and everything, with your clients, how much are, I guess, productions actually using AI today, or is it like how are you advising certain clients that actually want to use it? Is it more behind closed doors? They using more in pre-production, or are you actually seeing more use cases where people are using this in Final Pixel?
Some not, it's across the board. Some not at all. The one that is interactive storytelling is all AI, very, very heavily AI. And then micro dramas, they're using it as in lieu of special effects, basically, in lieu of in lieu of locations, and in lieu of special effects. Those are the big ones where I see. And some clients aren't there at all, and some clients are way ahead of the curve.
Well, maybe you can dive into more of the back of office. So maybe the less glamorous side of the business, but hopefully there's a lot of innovations happening with using things like a Wrapbook.
Yeah, that I am not privy to that, so I do the front side.
Yeah.
I think the thing is, AI is becoming more and more pervasive. Like even when you think about Googling something, most people actually are using ChatGPT. So I think I think AI is now in everybody's hands and they're using it in a variety of different ways. I think a lot of the industry has been discussing how does it impact talent? How does it impact what's happening in front of the camera? But behind the camera is incredibly important to actually get the job done. At Wrapbook, our entire focus is how do you help a producer hit a creative vision for the director on time and on budget? And for us, AI is about helping bring that to place. Like, you should be able to naturally ask, like, how much have I spent on this? And get an answer without knowing how to navigate some complicated piece of software. So in Wrapbook, you literally just type, how much did we spend yesterday? And it pulls up a report for you. So for us, like we continue to lean into AI really to help accountants, finance, producers, ADs with Synapse, really to help achieve the director's vision. And I think what we see really as themes is I think most people are using AI. I think the controversy is really how does it impact our industry going forward? And like, what does that actually look like in front of the camera?
Can we discuss like for all the independent producers on on the webinar today, like what is this next production tech stack? Everything from back of office all the way to final distribution. Like, can we kind of have a discussion about like what are some of the tools that people are using to develop this new type of tech stack to be more efficient in your productions?
Sure, I can jump in. So, I mean, I think it stretches all the way from development to post production, and obviously the operational side, operational management. I mean, I think development is where we saw it first being used. So using LLMs like ChatGPT to assist with one pagers or screenplays or maybe copy for a pitch deck, and other materials, and then using image generators like Midjourney, and now there's image generators like Google's Nano Banana Pro, to essentially create concept art. But that's obviously now sort of bleeding into full production with video generators. And to rattle off a couple tools that if people are curious, they might want to try out. Google Veo 3.1 is a great image video generator, and 11 Labs is a great AI audio creator. So gives you the ability to create synthetic voices and sound effects as well. So I think, yeah, we're seeing it. We saw it start with development. It's now bleeding into production, and post-production VFX is on that path as well. But like I said, I think it's going to be integrated into the traditional production workflow. It's not going to be replacing everyone, but rather slotting in and speeding things up and accelerating and compressing timelines and budgets.
I think we're getting into a time, just to piggyback off what Daniel is saying, where pre-production, production, and post is almost starting to like melt together into one process.
Yeah.
I still, at Arcana and just in the movies in general, I think the world belongs to the storytellers going forward in the world of AI. Because I don't care how much AI you have or don't have. If you've got a crappy script or a crappy story, it's just going to be a crappy movie or television series that has some cool looking AI stuff. And so I'm watching it get put into different workflows and basically almost like these production pods that we designed. So I'll just give an example of where it really makes a lot of sense today, and especially for people trying to enter into the business. I think that that's a really important thing because I think it's time personally, and I don't know who's listening to this or not. I've been in this business a long time, and I'm about ready for that red tape to come down because there are so many creators out there that deserve a shot who think that the idea of Hollywood is so far away and the idea of creating is so far away. And let's be very, very honest with ourselves as an industry. The business belongs to the creators. The business belongs going forward to the creator economy. They are more than double the size of us. They are using these tools and they are making things that we used to spend hundreds of millions of dollars making. So we have to get on the bandwagon. We don't have a choice. So, for example, a guy wants to make a genre picture. Genre picture, horror film are historically very contained, lower budget, 1.5, 2 million bucks, $1 million. Let's say you have $1 million. So you've got what, 15 days, 16 days, 17 days to shoot. So what do? Today we're in a world where you need eyeballs, so you have to raise production value and you're trying to lower costs. AI is the only tool that helps with that. So for example, your insert shots, your establishing shots, all can be done with a storyboard artist and a bunch of AI tools like Arcana, which has 100% of all the tools in one place, including Kling 3.0. Where you can create these things where at that time the director can be focused on the actors and getting the performances out of them and not worry and be able to take creative risk. And what I mean by creative risk is we have entered a place, with all due respect to the content out there, including my own, it kind of sucks right now because it's the same stuff over and over and over again, and the same saturated colors and the same stories. And I'm guilty of it myself. Okay. But just look at ourselves in the mirror for a moment. So you're able to do your establishings and all those things. But what I mean by creative risk is now you're sitting in the cutting room and then you realize you've done this really cool shot. And what's the biggest thing that a director ever tells a producer? I like to allocate my reshoot budget to production. Why? Because I never do reshoots, right? What director always says that? I never have to reshoot anything. It's like the famous last words. And then you go to the cutting room and you realize you didn't get something at a location that costs a lot of money you're not getting back. But with AI, you can take a frame, you can recreate that location very easily based on your own data, based on your own footage, and do that pickup. And so now I think the era of creative risk, which means I see an era coming back from between the mid 90s to the early 2000s, where independent film, they were able to take risks and they made the coolest stuff. And even without the revenues of video, if you can bring those costs down, I'm not saying do something cheaply, bring those costs down and empower these filmmakers and actors and everyone by using these tools as a blend, I think we're going to start to see a lot of beautiful creativity. And for the people on the outside trying to get in with these tools, in my opinion, and in the film schools, the only barrier today to creativity should be passion and nothing else, and nothing else.
I think there's like an interesting thing here where a lot of people focus on how AI will impact one production, and people hear, oh, if you use AI, you're spending less, and now I'm worried about that less. I think if you have a world where creativity is actually the thing that matters, and you can now create productions that match your creativity, my personal opinion is you're going to see a lot more content. Like, we love content. We love consuming content. I live in a world of optimism where I think we're going to see a lot more production. I think AI allows more people to produce. It allows for more forms that before were too expensive to actually create. And I'm very excited about that future.
Absolutely, I totally agree.
Just want to piggyback off both of you guys. I totally agree with Ali and Jonathan there. And I think actually, we'll definitely see productions that have smaller budgets, but we'll also see productions that are just reallocating budgets to ideas that would otherwise be financially out of reach. And as Jonathan touched on, and Ali, of course, in development, in the back of the writer's mind, certainly in the back of the director and the producer's mind, used to be concerns about budget. Oh, I'd love to put this sequence where the character goes and flies through a portal and emerges in another world. I'd love to put that in there, but can you imagine the VFX costs? this is just out of reach. Let's park that. But now they can revisit those ideas, they can take them off the shelf, and they can put everything in that simply makes a good story, everything that informs the story. So I think in a sense, it's an enabler of creativity, as you guys have indicated. It opens the doors to even more crazy thinking and imagination.
We're hitting a creative renaissance that once I think it's about time that Hollywood jumped on and started to accept AI. Because to be honest, the first time I showed my first iteration of Arcana like 3.5 years ago to a trade organization, they basically told me that I'm cannibalizing the industry and I should leave. But then a year later, they hired me to consult for them. So go figure. So it's time that we did. And another thing I'll just say is like Hollywood a long time ago, we used to dictate when and how people got entertained. We did. We said, you need to watch this movie, buy a ticket, show up at this and this time. You wanna catch the new television series, you better make sure that you've peed and that you have your popcorn and that you're sitting on the couch at Sunday night at 8 o'clock so that you can watch the show. But today, it's the audience dictating to us how they want to be entertained, and it's up to us to answer that call. And we can't be sandboxed by all the issues that are happening inside of the industry with especially in the independent world. And so these types of tools open those doors to start to create and put things out, whether it's micro dramas, short stuff, creator economy things, movies, television series, there's going to be a plethora of content, right? That we said, some of it's going to be crap, some of it's going to be good. Just like today, there's bad stuff, there's good stuff, but at least we could start to really grab the bull by the horns by empowering these storytellers, working on these workflows and getting filmmakers and people in trained on this stuff so that they can tell the stories that they've always wanted to tell. I've got huge directors using my platform today that used to, up until a year ago, were shooting just still on 35 millimeter, that are now doing the stories at the studios, even though they do studio movies, the studios would never touch or greenlight. And those are the things we want to see, because those end up being the cool stuff, not the stuff that we as executives are going to pass on.
Those. Well, Sky, we got to get a legal lens on here. So can you kind of walk us through how producers should be evaluating these AI tools?
I've thought about to break this down. It's actually pretty easy. There's three things that on the legal side that everybody should worry about. And one is uploading your content to some AI service to be manipulated, and look out for the terms of service on some of them. For example, Midjourney, once you upload it, you lose it. It becomes public domain under their terms of use. Disney fired one of their animators for uploading stuff, so that was clearly why. So though, please be careful on the uploading. Second is on the downloading. You've got to be careful that whatever you're using doesn't trip up either a copy. You don't trigger a third-party claim for copyright infringement because it looks like something else that somebody else has, or that it looks like the image of Brad Pitt or Angelina Jolie, or you've tried to make it look like that, and you did a good job. You're going to get a right of publicity claim, or you've used somebody's trademark. So uploading, protect it. Downloading, make sure you're not tripping over somebody else's right of publicity, copyright, or trademark. And then the third part is, how do you protect what it is that you've created? So the current rule right now is that you cannot protect with copyright something that is created by AI. So if you have a film that is entirely created by AI, you cannot protect that with copyright. So how do you protect yourself? And there's a couple of ways to do it. One is to have human intervention in the beginning and make sure that the fundamental, whether it's the image or the writing or the story or the something, and then everything else can be a derivative work based on that, or take the output and then intersperse human creativity into that, have somebody go through it and do special effects by, personally or something. editing, add human intervention that somebody won't be able to parse out so that you can protect it, because otherwise anyone can run off with whatever it is that you create. So those are the three big buckets really to worry about.
That's why I think human storyboard artist is your best friend now when getting ready to work with the tools. I tell people all the time in the production, storyboard with a human, everything, every part of the script. Get to a place today, it's changing. Generally, we only board big action scenes or sequences like that that would cost a lot of money. But I tell people today, invest a little bit. It's not that much in the grand scheme of things, and it just saves you down the line with regards to copyright. Absolutely,
Yeah.
what Sky said in the human intervention element, the editing element, all these things are very, very important. We had to take that very seriously when we made Echo Hunter, because I was trying to show from the beginning that the union, the guild, and AI and filmmakers can all work together, which is why we worked so hard to get that SAG contract for Echo Hunter to prove and show that everything was based on what Cavan the kid had drawn, even in a composition book when he was getting ready to do, to put it. Plus, it helps you with control. AI and AI tools are all about control and maintaining control. So once you create a storyboard plus prompting, now you've put AI into a sandbox. That's your sandbox that you have maintained more control, and it allows for the workflow to be easier as you go on into the different processes of production, post, and whatnot.
I would build on that what Jonathan said there, and definitely agree with human storyboarding, both for the kind of chain of ownership and also just to get your ideas straight. But also we're working on a couple of AI animated films, and what we've discovered is that a human created animatic is still really important with animations as well. So going as far as an animatic without any AI involvement is really important, because not only does it give you additionally that proof of ownership and original creativity, but it also obviously maps out how you want the animation to go and saves you from consuming credits, time, valuable resources on generating essentially final pixel videos that are then going to have to need to be just like thrown away basically and revised by the director. So yeah, traditional storyboarding, big fan, and also traditional animatics.
Yeah, absolutely.
I guess like we're talking about saving time, maybe saving money, being able to take more risks, right, in the creatively. Can we maybe like talk through the budgeting for this? Like, how expensive are we talking about? Like, is there any way for us to have a discussion about not just the tools, like the cost of the tokens for using the tools, but also if there's any training needs, legal oversight, the compliance, if there's any union requirements? I feel like all these producers that are on this call probably are like, this sounds great, but like, how much does this really going to impact my my budget, and how do I allocate this as a line producer?
I think if you look at the world of visual effects, and that's really where you can kind of start, because as things are being made with AI, if you look at the comparisons between the costs of traditional VFX, my rule of thumb is, for me, I'm seeing the costs, and when I'm seeing people use Arcana for, like whether it's help to do some previs on some creatures or things like that, it's generally about 40% of the cost of what it would cost to have VFX create new assets, which can be which can be in the low six figures. So generally, it's something then. But the actual cost of credits, that all depends on what models you're using. That all depends on the generations that you're doing, which is why, to Daniel's point before, you do as much as you can human-wide before you start to get the generation. You look at generating, especially video, look at that as production. Like pretend that is production. It's not nearly the cost of a day of production, but it is production. And so, which is why, like in Arcana, for example, and I keep bringing up my platform. I'm not trying to market, but we created it for that, where you're in this ecosystem where you can track the projects and you can cut, and let's say as a producer, you can decide, or as a production designer, however, you can divvy out credits. So you can give someone 50,000 credits and say, okay, you have this 50,000 credits to get this done, which is saying to them, do as much as you can by hand first or traditionally, and then when you're ready, start to use it. And that's how you can track costs as using any kind of tool or program or anything like that. But the cost is generally, I look at it as about 40% of what it would actually cost to do something, in the world of VFX or practically or something like that.
Mm. Yeah, and just to build on that, advice I would give on credit consumption is um, if you have a group of creative technologists in your studio who are working on a production, try and reach out to the AI tools themselves. They're pretty responsive generally and communicative, and try and get creative partnerships with them. They all have creative partnership programs, which will include a sort of free credit allocation per month, a free premium plan or something, and that can really bring those costs down. But yeah, in terms of variables, when costing out something, an AI chunk of production, typically it's sort of number of creative technologists required for the production, caliber and their day rates, etc., credit consumption, and then obviously any other creatives that you'll need. So paying the editors, paying musicians, perhaps to get original music for your production, and all the other bits and pieces. But yeah, that's what I would say on credits.
I often hear this like question of cost, and then we hear different levels of quality. I'd
Mm.
be interested to hear from you both, like, what are you actually seeing with quality, and like what is attributable to the model itself versus the human versus the workflow, and just when have you seen like you see something that's poorly done, but then you get the right person, the right workflow, the right model, and there's a drastic difference.
Mhm.
It's so funny. There was a guy recently who made like this unbelievable commercial or music video or something with Arcana. And it took him 3 days to make it. And it looked amazing. Like something that, um, what's the guy's name who did TRL back in the days of MTV? He would have been really impressed, I feel like.
You mean Carson Daly?
Carson Daly. Carson Daly would have loved this video.
I
And
miss
so
Carson Daly.
I miss Carson Daly also. So, we should remake MTV with AI. But so anyway, he did it and it took him 3 days. But when you watch it, you realize it didn't take him three. It took him 15 years plus 3 days to do it because of all the skill and the talent that he has and the knowledge. At Arcana, we fine tune the models for cinematic quality. So, like Daniel, we have relationships with all of the companies, and we have permission with our APIs and our things to fine tune models because cinematic quality is the gold standard. So, the output out of our models in our ecosystem is way more photorealistic. And we do a lot of back end prompting to help creators. So, but I also think it's just a skill level. Like if you've got the eye, like if you're an amazing DP, you'll know how to type out a shot that you're looking to do or looking to design because you have the knowledge of the camera and the lens and the f-stop and where the sun is that day and what's going on with the lighting. So you still need the basics of the knowledge and to study and to learn these things. So I think it's just who's the better or more robust creative is who uses the tools better at the end of the day.
Mhm. Yeah, I'd echo that and say that I think definitely the creator behind it is the biggest factor. As Jonathan mentioned, like having a background in traditional VFX or traditional um, directing and having that keen forensic director's eye is going to be incredibly useful at getting beautiful outputs. Um, but also the models themselves, they all have different characteristics and different strengths and weaknesses. Certain models are better at sort of highly dynamic movements, others are better at sort of facial realism, and others better at more sort of stylized animations. So it's just a case of figuring out what are your favorite tools and what they're best at just through experimentation or through consulting people. And there are great tool aggregators out there like FreePick as well that have allow you to access all of the models within one platform. And I imagine by the sounds of it, Arcana as well. And that's also a great way to experiment with them and get to know all the pros and cons.
Amazing. I think before we get into Q&A, go back to you, Sky. And I know this is the unions right now are about to start renegotiation. Just wondering how can producers, how can certain productions work within the current guidelines, and is there anything that anyone should be worried about or like hesitant about using these tools, given that we're in this limbo of new renegotiations?
Yeah, this is definitely a hot button topic for the guilds. Obviously, this was one of the issues they went to strike over 3 years ago, and now I think it's actually more important this time around than it was the last time. And so you obviously want to be sensitive to not replacing guild members in whatever's happening. Um, the let me just run down where it currently stands on the DGA got a remarkable provision that said if you're a DGA signatory company, you can't use AI to replace a DGA member, which effectively precludes a DGA signatory from using AI to create a film because you would be obviously replacing the director, unless he's very actively involved, unless you have a director somewhat involved. On the WGA, you're allowed to use AI to write scripts, to edit, to do whatever, but it doesn't count as literary material for purposes of compensation or credit. So that whoever next touches that script, treatment, whatever it is, whatever human next touches it is deemed to be the writer of it, and for purposes of credit and for purposes of compensation. And then the SAG has a very interesting provision that if a studio creates a synthetic actor, that the studio needs to negotiate with SAG for, quote, reasonable compensation, appropriate compensation, and it's not clear what that compensation is, if at all. I'm sure the studio's position is nothing, and that I think these are all up for grabs for the new agreement. Like you're running the risk now that a fully AI created film from zero, from start to finish is out there. You've got Tilly Norwood out there now as a synthetic actress, supposedly holding herself out to, act in films. That's going to get SAG excited. You've got the ability to write scripts from ground zero, which is going to get WGA excited. So this is going to be a hot button for 2026 for sure.
Yeah, I think maybe one more question I had for people is, we've been talking about creating the films and using AI, obviously in that process, but how about marketing your films? How about like everything else to actually get your film seen and, sold and, promoted? I feel like there has to be a lot of great innovations using these AI tools in a responsible manner to help people that are going out to the festivals this year. Anyone have any good examples about that?
I think we're on a panel with with IFTA that IFTA is putting on. So the film markets, for example, as indies who we want to have to go and pre-sell our product, we always make posters and one sheets and all kinds of materials as we're packaging our films to go and try to pre-sell them. And historically, the costs of making these one sheets and these posters that look pretty bad, to be honest, when we're just making stuff up, was anywhere between 7,500 to 12 grand, sometimes even more per poster. Now, with these platforms and these tools, you can make posters and they can look a lot better, and you're paying pennies on the dollar. Those costs just can't be supported by the independent movie business anymore. And then marketing content and stuff, you can make, anything video or still related, you can make for your film or television series for marketing. You can get so much more output and lower the cost that your P&A budget is not going to be as high, and you can focus maybe on getting more screens at the movie theaters. You can focus on engaging with and getting a lot more content out there, or helping influencers, let's say, that you want to hire, and you can help make them stuff that they can put on, and maybe you don't have to pay $25,000 for a post, or work things out like that. You can run ads that generally an indie would never have. An indie would never have, for example, the money to go on to run an ad on like a Joe Rogan podcast, because that's like 150 grand. But if we give the AI version of Joe Rogan, which we do with permission, where he doesn't have to do anything, maybe it'll just cost 20 grand or 30 grand, and start to look at things like this, even the actors, once the actors are not available anymore, what if you can use them for other stuff with their permission, of course, and all of those things. I will say one thing though about the actors. They're going to get deep fake no matter what. The question is, do they want to jump on the bandwagon and get deep rich in the process, if we're being serious? Because I never forget, I was making a movie, I was making Angel Has Fallen, and Jerry, the lead of the movie, he had a deal with a clothing company, and he wanted to go away for a few days to go, do a photo shoot. But we couldn't. He was in production. We weren't going to lose $500,000 for him to make $1 million. But with AI, you can, with his permission, the brand can do the photo shoot. He stays on production. They're saving money in different places, and everybody wins. Whereas everybody wins. And so looking at it like that, of how you can 10x something, as opposed to, like the doom and gloom scenario, I think is really, really important. I know I rambled there, but you guys understand me.
Yes, loud and clear. I got Jennifer on here. I think you want to start fielding some questions.
Yes, we have a lot of questions. So I think a lot of people are a little bit confused about likeness. So I'm going to start there. Can somebody, maybe either Sky or Jonathan, talk a little bit about how you actually approach or get the likeness for talent licensed for AI? And then the second part of that is, once they're scanned, are they out of the project and everything then is done based on their scan, or is there still involvement of the talent after their scan?
Let me address that. If they're non-SAG, it's the rule's different whether they're SAG or non-SAG. If they're non-SAG, under the California law, an actor can no longer just give away the right to use AI to do digital replicas of that actor, unless, and there's a bunch of exceptions, and the most important one is if they have a lawyer representing them, then they can. So as long as they have a lawyer, they show up with a lawyer, basically all bets are off. You can do whatever they can, as whatever they sign, you can do. SAG, different rules. SAG is very protective on the issue, and basically you have to have full disclosure. You have to have a lawyer. It has to be clear and conspicuous, and they have to get compensated for whatever it is you're doing, including residuals. So as long as whatever you're using them for, you pay residuals, you can do it. So that's kind of that'd be, and beyond that, if you're using just celebrities or something, you're not using them as an actor. You want to, it's a consent question. It's just getting good luck, getting their consent to do it is the short answer.
Excellent. Thanks, Sky. Jonathan or anyone else have anything more to say there? You guys?
When we got likenesses, or it's basically what we did earlier on with Echo, is just we got their likeness just for that. I personally I don't believe, I made Echo Hunter to show where I think the puck is eventually going to go. I don't think it's there yet by any means. I think you need to shoot actors completely practically at the moment if you want to make a good movie, because something is missing in the digital twin emotionally. So I could be eating my words right now because AI is moving so fast, for 6 months from now, a year from now, whatever it is, maybe less. But generally, you would get the likeness for that project specifically. It's not like I can take, Gerard Butler and then go and put him in a different movie that I have. No, it's just for that deal. And then the likeness technically belongs to them after. If they want to keep the model that we made, they can have it. Otherwise, we just destroy it. But it's just for that. And that's pretty much it. And everything else that Sky said is obviously the letter of the law.
Terrific. Thank you. We have some questions about the back office and workflow, specifically about budgets. Someone is asking if you can create a budget fully using AI, and will financiers take that as something credible at this point? And do you have to disclose that it was created by AI?
I think most studios are like they have all their budgets in a data lake, and they've constantly wanted to compare for a production like this, shooting this number of days. If I'm in this location versus that location, what are differences that I can see? AI facilitates analysis. I haven't seen AI create a reputable budget. I have seen AI inform what a human should do in a budget and then leverage movie magic, showbiz, etc., in order to create the budget. And then, of course, yeah, I think like the leveraging AI to do budgeting just is smart.
Agreed. There's so much information, and just everything can be done so much quicker that it's just such a time-saving tool, right? Even to do estimates and MGs and things like that, not to do them completely, but to inform your information. Somebody else is asking from the other side, if you're a location and you have gorgeous cinematic footage of your location, how do you get that onto AI platforms so that producers and creatives can use it?
There's two ways today. Very, very soon, or now, there's something called video to video that's like right there. But before that, you're basically, if you go on a location scout and you found a great location, you just take stills of the location, multiple stills, whatever it is, you can put those into a platform, those stills, and you can start to iterate on those. If you want to just show, if the production designer wants to start working on that and say, this is what it looks like when the hut is here, and this is what it looks like in the nighttime, and this is what it can look like if we put the futuristic whatever, then you move that into another suite. I'm just going through the Arcana workflow and move it into another suite where you can start to video it and start to bring it to life. And then on the reverse, it's the same thing on if you have your location that you already shot in, if you need to recreate that location again to do a pickup or something, you can do that later on after you're even in the. But now there's something called video to video coming where you can actually shoot. Video to video is there. It'll be in Arcana next week. But basically now you can shoot video and then upload video, and then upload video, and then in real time you're starting to edit and change things inside the video. In other words, everybody's about to become Andy Serkis in their living room. That's what's about to happen.
I think there's another side of this. Someone else asked the question of, hey, I have a large brick and mortar business. How am I found now? And I think there's a side of just people used to Google search this stuff, and SEO was important, and you'd run ads, and like you had a beautiful website. Now you go into ChatGPT and you're like, well, I have this budget. I'm considering these locations. Here's my 10 different pieces of criteria. Where should I consider shooting? And winning that battle is a very different battle than winning Google SEO search, where LLMs are actually proposing to humans what we should do based off of like very deep articles. So how actually someone advertises their business and writes about their business is now a very different game for the entire, like, how to be found as a location and how to have my equipment rented, and all these things are changing because I think producers are using AI and actually informing their decision of where to rent, where to shoot, etc.
I think that's a really good point. Yeah, thank you, Ali. One other question. Tilly Norwood obviously has been in the news more than we'd probably like to see, but maybe for Sky, Do you see this becoming a thing? Are we going to live in a world where there's going to be all of these AI generated talents that are going to emerge?
Oh, absolutely. We represent our firm some pretty high-end talent, and we like routinely have to go on YouTube and watch somebody has created unbelievably realistic versions of them. So and then Tilly Norwood, this is coming like a freight train, um, all the way to perfect actors that can go right through a film. I mean, that's a ways off. I get it, maybe, but I'm telling you, it's coming and it's getting really close. So that triggers the big one on that issue is right of publicity. How do you protect yourself? There's going to be a lot of litigation on this. The guilds are going to be all over this question. SAG in particular, obviously, is going to be all over this. And it's going to be an ugly world. I mean, a litigious world. Let's put it that way. Big time.
Can I jump
Terrific.
in on that?
Oh, go ahead. Of course, Daniel.
Sure, yeah. So, not from the sort of legal perspective, which Sky's covered there, but I do think that there still will be in the future a place for human actors and human talent. I think that, people connect on screen better with someone they know as a real person that really has a lived experience on set and really did those things, really, interacted with that other character. And they follow, celebrities, they follow their backstory, the relationship issues, litigation issues, and that's part of the package. I think part of what we connect with on screen. So I do think there will be lots of synthetic characters in the same way that we connect with, say, animated characters, fictional characters today. But I do think there'll be still lots of human portrayals of characters that are going to be enjoyed by audiences and demanded by audiences in the future. But yeah, certainly there'll be a lot of legal noise around it.
The flip side of it, there are now Instagram influencers that are completely AI and that are very successful and that live, the lifestyle of the rich and famous. And the flip side of it is, how do you protect them? How do you protect the creator of those, whether Tilly Norwood, the Instagram people? How do you protect those? And that's a tricky one. That's actually because you can't protect it with copyright because they're AI created, unless you can go to some underlying work created by a human and say it's a derivative work, or trademark. And can you trademark a character? That's going to be the next fun battle that we're actually doing that, trying to do that right now.
Great.
Interesting. Almost like trying to trade. Maybe it's like trademarking, almost like the software that's or something. It's like it's interesting.
Yeah.
That chain of command is important.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but they're some of the most successful sellers on Instagram. They're making so much money. It's ridiculous.
And now, yeah.
One question that I know has come up quite regularly just amongst our own membership. Obviously, when you're selling independent films, they're going to go when they sell to all different countries, all different territories. The question of the quality of dubbing into foreign languages has definitely been something that our membership and people that sell at markets are looking at. So I guess I would ask, number one, is the quality there now? Is this something that independent producers should be looking at for post when they're having to deliver to different territories? And are these dubs being accepted by the streamers? Is Amazon, for instance, accepting things that are dubbed by AI?
I think it's an interesting question. I think dubbing software, AI dubbing software definitely is there. It's going to depend on territory by territory, in my opinion, because if there's big actors, there's generally actors that have been dubbing those actors for many years in various territories. So it's a voice that their audience is used to. The question is, will the distributor be able to use AI to dub with that actor's voice that they, if it's whoever does Sly's voice in Germany or whoever, or whatever, France, can they create a model with that voice where that voice is still being compensated for them to do it territory by territory? I think running it on a massive scale one time, like with Flawless, which is great, by the way, a little expensive, but they're great. That's where there's going to be kind of a disconnect because you don't want to alienate your audience who's used to hearing a specific voice of a dub for an actor that they've been watching forever. So I think it's going to be a territory by territory issue.
Okay. I think we've answered most of the questions. There's a lot of duplicates, but I guess I would just throw it over to all the speakers if there's any final thoughts. Quickly, what independent producers and companies should look. Yep.
There was something with regard, someone was asking about the opinion of Darren Aronofsky's Revolutionary War. I think it's actually an incredible feat, personally. And I'll give an example of it where it makes a lot of sense. Maybe Darren Aronofsky doesn't, he gets financing and stuff for movies, but most recently there was a couple of filmmakers who made this 8-part docu-series called Revolutionary in honor of the 250th anniversary. They want to release, and the information in it was incredible. Unfortunately, they only had the budget to do like pan across oil paintings and get two actors in a black box. And it was wonderful info, but they tried to sell to one of the channels and they were like, okay, just take it to PBS. I mean, great information, but you have John Lithgow narrating, Alicia Silverstone, Christina Hendricks narrating these episodes. They used Arcana and basically rebuilt with sketches and custom models for George Washington on public domain paintings. They recreated the Revolutionary War. They recreated Washington in walking around in Barbados and all of that stuff. And it just raised the production value. And now they have a sale and they're being distributed. These young filmmakers working with these historians in the Philosophical Society are being distributed now in July, which I think is an unbelievable thing, and historians looked at everything down to the button and they were able to pull it all off. So I think something like that is like super impressive and incredible,
Thank you. And have you guys seen Darren Aronofsky's work?
Really I can jump in. I spoke about I did watch it, and I spoke about this on about Darren Aronofsky's work on BBC Radio 4 on Tuesday. And the point I made there, which I'll echo here, is I think that he is, but in creating it, simply putting a sort of technological stake in the ground. He's saying this is where the tech's at now, or at least where it was at, 3 to 6 months ago, right, when they will have made it and needed to get sign off, et cetera, et cetera. And he's kind of giving a hint at what's to come. So there are certain elements of it that are, imperfect. There's a polish, there's an uncanny valley, lip sync, etc. But all of these things are going to get ironed out over the coming weeks and months by the models. So I think a tremendous feat for sure.
Is anyone, Jonathan, you go to market. You guys pick up, you're obviously producing a lot of your own films, but you also, sell films that are brought to you by other creators. Are you thinking that you will at some point start to make, fully AI generated movies and sell them?
If the market wants them.
Yeah.
That's what we do. I just answer to what the market wants. And when we're really there, I don't know if we're fully there yet. And I don't think anything will ever be 100% fully Gen AI, at least in my world, because I still believe in traditional script development, storyboards, all of those things. Maybe generate AI generated production, but traditional post sound, post picture, some elements of VFX still. So I don't think for me I'll ever be 100% fully Gen AI, but I think we're going to see those. I don't generally sell other people's movies. I just sell my own, but if the market wants it, we'll make it. I think in the animation space, it's really interesting because now you can create animation for a lot cheaper. And now independent distributors who had never had a shot at a Pixar movie now have a shot at doing some animation, which I think is kind of cool.
Yeah. And probably faster delivery too, as opposed to the years and years long that it would take, right?
I greenlit a series 3 weeks ago. We started already making it. It's a 7 minutes per episode animated series. That kind of like the Magic School Bus. It's about a family it's a kids series. We got a few guys working on it now. It's all based on a bunch of sketches from a composition book that this artist had. By March, we'll have 70 episodes done, edited and in the can.
Oh boy,
And we'll start releasing in April.
that's incredible. That would have taken years to have done before.
And it's all human actors voicing the stuff.
Terrific. Thank you, everyone. This was a really, really terrific conversation. We've got Robin back now. He will take us out.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to thank you, Todd, and thank you guys. We appreciate you sharing your time, knowledge, and insight in discussing this topic. It's clear that AI is going to play a role in future content creation and storytelling, not just generative AI, but cost and time savings in production and workflow solutions. So thank you all. As a recap, a recording of the webinar will be made available early next week. We'll send you an email with a link to the video. Thank you for joining the webinar today, and we hope you'll join us in the next one. Thank you. Bye-bye.